Honours were just about even on the opening day of the LV County Championship clash between unbeaten Somerset and Nottinghamshire in Taunton until Samit Patel and Chris Reed produced a thrilling partnership as the visitors closed in on the maximum number of batting bonus points. Put in, Notts had to work hard for their runs early on a pitch which was much greener than most seen at this ground. After a very high-scoring draw in the other match here this summer against Yorkshire, perhaps Somerset were hoping to make the most of Nottinghamshire's fragile batting lineup currently. Stephen Mullaney and Phil Jakes put on 34 runs in the first 8.5 overs before the former lost his off-stump to Alphonso Thomas after making 22. Thomas was bowling well and at times Jakes was living rather dangerously against him, as proven with this moment of fortune. Michael Lum was not as lucky. An inside edge onto pad looped into the air to offer Alvaro Peterson a simple catch, which reduced Nottinghamshire to 45 for 2, Lum gone for 7. Somerset would have been pleased with their start. The ball was doing plenty at times and Jakes thought he was gone after top-edging a pull off Thomas. Everybody thought Craig Keyswetter had done enough behind the stumps, but it turned out that he'd spilled the chance. Thomas and the fielders couldn't quite believe it. Jakes was having a torrid time in the middle. Jamie Overton then caught him flush on the side of his head. Thankfully the batsman was okay to continue. His partner James Taylor also made a bit of a shaky start to his innings, but gradually batting did become a little easier for these two, and it needed to. Notts came into this match on the back of 2 defeats in which both games had seen them dismissed cheaply in their first innings. They needed a score here. And with Jake's run of luck continuing, this pair saw their side through to lunch after what had been a great session of cricket. Food taken, Jakes and Taylor came out after the break and began to put their side on top. All of the hard work of the morning from these two was starting to pay off as they kept the scoreboard ticking over with some terrific shots, which took both batsmen towards their 50s. For Jakes, on a short-term deal at Notts, this was a second successive half-century. He would have made better ones in his long career, but it was a very valuable knock for his team. It had occupied 103 balls and included 9 fours. He took that tally of boundaries to 10 just 2 balls later. Taylor was at his half-century a couple of overs later with his 8th four, a well-timed cut shot which took him to a 50 off 90 deliveries. Having missed the opening match of the summer, this was Taylor's second half-century. A man who loves batting, he was now greedy for more. By now, Taylor was timing the ball nicely, and this boundary brought up the 100 partnership for these two batsmen. That stand had reached 112 when Jakes nicked Gregory to James Hildreth to go for 65, and Taylor soon followed as the informed Gregory had him taken behind for 60 at 162 for 4. It was the bowler's 21st success so far this season. So Notts now had to start all over again with 2 new batsmen at the crease. One of them, Patel, looked in fine fettle from the off, and he was soon playing some delightful cricket shots to try to get his side back on top in this important contest. But they were set back again when Ricky Vessels edged Overton behind after making 7 to leave with his side on 194 for 5. A good position was slipping. But Patel kept going, proving the point that batting had become a little easier as the day was wearing on. Patel's was the star performance of what became an excellent day for his side. A flicked 4 off Overton, his 8th boundary, took Patel to his fine 50, made off 72 deliveries. Each half-century was a little quicker than the previous one, and that was to continue during the remainder of the day. Batting suddenly became a lot more palatable as Reed and Patel began to ensure that this was their side's day. The green nature of the pitch certainly hadn't turned it into a minefield, and both batsmen were able to play their shots to very good effect. Indeed, the runs started to come at a very good rate as one boundary after another was struck. At one point it looked as if Somerset might even bowl their opposition out on this opening day, but that was not going to happen now. The second new ball made no difference as far as Reed and Patel were concerned. Reed's 50 was the fastest of the lot. Out of form with the bat for some while now, this was the best the Nottinghamshire captain has played for the best part of a couple of years. His own half-century had used up just 66 balls, and he got there with his 8th 4. The following over, the 84th, Nottinghamshire posted their 300, and they were not about to stop there. Patel was by now in stand and deliver mode. He's often at his very best when playing his shots, and he was playing plenty of them by now, as the Somerset attack, so good in that win over Sussex last week, had no answer to him. Patel also timed the ball extremely well, and this flick off Peter Trigo brought him his 17th four and took him to a fantastic 100, made off only 129 balls. In truth, he'd made batting look rather easy from the moment he came in, and he'd certainly made the most of the improving conditions in the warm sunshine of the West Country. He hadn't finished there either. This was one of the best shots of many to choose from, as he and his skipper tore into the home bowling unit. Overton was very expensive, his 17 overs costing 88 runs, Reid pulling him with force as he neared his own scintillating 100 before the day was brought to a close. 182 runs were smashed in the last session alone. What a day it turned out to be in the end then for Notts. Patel and Reid added an electrifying 188 runs for the 6th wicket in just 33 overs together. They'll want to add plenty more on the second day. Patel will go again with 116 runs to his name, made off 149 balls, while Reid requires just 5 more for what would be close to a runnable century. Thanks to these two, Nottinghamshire already have a score of 382 for 5 on the board.